Hey, we received a very smart text to the Bloomers in the Garden hotline about overwintering cannas. Here's what they had to say.
I have a question. I have been planting cannies for about 12 years every year. I dig them up, clean them off, bring them into my basement last year. I experimented by keeping them in the ground, and they did better than the ones that I replanted in the spring. Is that because our winters are getting warmer, or are they adaptable that I should be leaving them in the ground every year? I do mulch every year after I cut them down.
That's interesting.
It is.
Some cannas are more hardy than others, and that they don't have to be dug up. So when you get that little tag, don't throw it away. Take a look to see what hardiness zone they are, because there are a lot of cannas that are hardy to zone 5. Okay, and that's some of our northern listening area, like some of the western parts of Pennsylvania, up in northern West New Jersey, also into some of the areas of New England, that folks that listen to us in Connecticut, and that they can take that. Like southern New Jersey is zone 7, and 5 is, it's cold. It's cold. So here's a couple of varieties to look for. Wyoming, Basin, and Bengal Tiger are all hardy in those zones. But here's a general rule. If you have cannas and you live in, most of them are zone 8. And then you can also, like zone 7, you can kind of get away with cutting them back after they get hit with a hard frost, and then mulch over top of them. So you're kind of like putting like an insulation blanket of mulch, and that they'll stay. You see a lot of cannas. I think it's kind of funny that in a cemetery. My cannas that I planted in the cemetery did not come back well, and I'm not exactly sure why. But when we're having this kind of weather where it's dry and they're going into the season dry, you need to make sure that you water them, because it's going to be harder for them to come back. And your observations of a warmer winter is like, we don't want to get into the fight as far as like, oh, there's climate change or what have you. Winters have been warm in that. But I remember just a few years ago that I have never seen where I live, Washington Township, New Jersey, in southern New Jersey, in Gloucester County, it was 0.
Yeah.
0. Not like 5 degrees or 10 degrees. That's cold enough, but it was 0. So year to year, it's different. If we get 0, your cannas are dead. And your things that aren't normal for our range, things like crepe myrtles, they're going to be dead down to the ground, and then they'll come back up from the roots, but it's not going to be the way that it's been the last few years where they're coming out. So cold weather can actually kill them. Most of the cannas are zone 8, but you've got to check. You can check on your tags and see. If you're not sure, you're going to need to dig up your cannas after they get their first frost. Let them get hit by a frost. A frost is like or their first freeze, I should say. A freeze is like a switch. It kind of turns off the growth mechanism in a plant. A frost damages it. It can still grow past it. Where a freeze, it like shuts the plant down. The plant naturally shuts down. It's like, all right, we're done. And that after a freeze where it damages the foliage, that's the time to dig up your cannas. You're going to cut off the top. You're going to take a fork, dig them out of the ground. You're going to brush as much of the soil off as you can. And that you're going to, now this may sound strange, but you're going to roll them up in newspaper, because that's going to absorb some of the moisture so that they don't rot while you have them stored over winter. And then you're going to maybe put a little bit of dry peat moss in with them and put them in a paper bag. And then you're going to put them in the coolest place you can in your home without it freezing, and then store them. Dark is best. And then in the spring, you plant them. Usually it's going to be in the beginning of May. You don't want to plant them too early because the soil temperatures are going to be pretty cold for them, because they don't really start growing until the soil temperatures get a little bit warmer than we get. So don't be too anxious to put them in. But again, if you're buying some for next year, take a look on those tags and see if you're buying something that's in zone 5 or even zone 7. You can probably get away with them being overwintered. But the key is to giving them a blanket of mulch, and that will make the difference. So you don't have cannas, right?
No, I don't.
Yeah, no. I planted cannas in pots, and I've got some elephant ears in pots that I've got to dig up and save. So I haven't treated them very well. They're very dry, like the rest of everything else. But again, get them so that they've absorbed some water. You've got a little bit of a chance right now. Freeze is coming. Freeze is coming. All of a sudden, you're going to go outside and it's going to be 28 degrees, and you're going to say, "What happened?" So, anything to add, Hole?
No, he sounds like he's having success.
Yeah, So, the key that he's doing is he's over mulching them. But again, don't think that there's something wrong if all of a sudden one year they don't come back. It could be just that they got hit by that freeze, and instead of, like, again, what's the frost layer? Frost layer in our area is like 18 to 24 inches. So, it gets down that far in that freeze layer. So it could be one of those years that happens, but
you never know.
But again, you never know. Disturbing the soil, digging them up, putting them back in, potential of them rotting over the season, over the while they're stored, that is all a possibility. So check your tags. Check your tags before you buy some that are a little bit more of a the lower the number, the better. And then also their plants,
not puppies.
Just replace them next year. You got a lot out of them. We don't have to talk about the price of a Happy Meal. But considering, what you're putting out, what you get back, maybe replacing them is the best thing.
Yeah.